Hello everyone, this is James Shore with another test-driven JavaScript video. I'm recording this on October 4th, 2012. And when we left off last time, we were working on getting our cross-browser testing working. We actually have it all set up, working with Testacular, and we have the ability to run all of our tests against all of our browsers, which is awesome. However, our simple little test here is not yet working. And at the very end of the episode, I figured out is because although I installed the expect test framework, I installed the wrong one. The framework named expect in Node in npm is actually some abandonware trivial little thing that isn't relevant to what we're doing. I needed to install expect.js, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to get that working. Decide which assertion framework to use. And I've actually decided, let's go ahead and use expect.js, and let's go ahead and use a BDD style on the client. Now, I wouldn't normally do this, but for the purposes of the video, I think it could be really interesting for us to have, for you to all see what BDD looks like. I'll try to give it my best shot. I am more of a TDD guy, but I'll try to do it justice. And that way, you all have a chance to see a different style of testing. Now, as I said, I wouldn't do this on a real project. I prefer consistency, but for this code, it could be really interesting. So that's what we're going to do. And once we get that up and running, I'd like to get this all automated into our Jake build and have it part of our standard build and our continuous integration and everything. And once we have that going, I want to make sure that it's checking that we're running against all of our browsers. And then we've got some cleanup to do. And then I think we'll be able to actually start developing the client-side stuff. But as usual, I like to get our infrastructure in place and really smooth and easy to use so that it doesn't become a blocker in the future. So anyway, as I said, we've got Testacular running. So if I start Testacular, it will run against all of these browsers. And I just love it. I've got the iOS simulator running Safari. I've got Firefox. I've got desktop Safari. I've got Chrome. I've got IE9. I've got IE8. These are all running all the time. And when we run Testacular, you can see all those tests go through. And that's cool. Now, last time I said it was working, but it wasn't. The message on Testacular is a little confusing. It says total 5 success, and I just sort of went down to that and said, great, we were successful. But no, IE8 is not working with this framework, but we've got the wrong one. So let's uninstall expect, and let's install expect.js, which is actually the correct one. And now let's get that set up over here. Line up another tombstone. Actually, let's see. First, we'll do it here. It's actually called node modules expect.js. And over here, we now should be able to say expect foo to equal foo. And let's see that work. Actually, we have to restart Testacular. IE8 and IE9 seem to cause Testacular some grief sometimes, and it connects multiple times. And you can see here in the browsers that we've got a bogus browser. So we'll have to fix that. But first, let's just try running it. Yeah, it looks like everything is working, except for that one wrong one. So what I need to do is actually turn off IE8. Go to a blank page, and then restart it. Oh, go to the blank page, shut this down, and then reconnect it. And I think that may have worked. Yeah, now we're good. And we really have all of our browsers working now. So awesome. Okay, so we've got our tests up and running, cross-platform, working everywhere. Let's go ahead and check that in. So in your project, of course, what you'll do is you'll decide which browsers you want to support, And then you'll just capture those browsers in development. Uh, I've chosen to do IE9, the latest Safari, Chrome, Firefox, and then the version of Safari I have on my installed iOS simulator. That was somewhat arbitrary. I chose IE8 because that is still fairly popular. I wanted to get a more annoying browser in. We could have done IE7 as well, but I figured this was a good example for this screencast. For you guys, of course, you'll decide which browsers you want to do and just do that. And you might need to work with your operations guys or your IT folks to get a server set up or multiple servers that can have all the different browsers you want. In particular, you might want to run multiple versions of Firefox or Chrome or so forth. But now that you see how this works, that's something that you'll have to figure out as necessary for your specific situation. The important thing here is the ability to run against all the browsers we support, and that's just, it's so powerful. So we're working here. Let's go ahead and get this into our Jake file. So we need to run Testacular not from the command line, but from the Jake file. Let's see how that works exactly. So we're running node modules bin Testacular, and that is just a little node file. I'll bet you we could just run that directly. I'll bet you we could just do what it's doing. And yeah, let's start out by trying that. So I want to create a client-side test target. So this is the test server code target. And actually, that doesn't need to be a high-level target. Actually, I think it could be useful. So we've got test server, and now we need to test client code. And before we get into that, let's get our Jake file working. Last time looked at it. Oh, of course, we don't have our test task anymore because I took it out. So we'll have that run the server and run the client. And that's all. Doesn't need to do anything on its own. Okay. What? Oh, haha. It says that was test, not task. Okay, there we go. So now we've got everything in here. And our Testacular configuration file failed. I'm going to exclude that from our lint. Okay, and now our client test isn't linting, and that's no surprise. I'm going to go ahead and put in, I think I'll just put in the globals for now. But actually, what we need to do is so what's happening here is that it's saying that we're missing use strict, we're missing describe, we're missing it. So we'll get all of those in there. But this is actually something we need to configure for all of our client-side tests. So we actually need a client-side linting. We need to set up a client-side linting options. Right now our linting options are server side only. So we need to use strict in here. Let's reformat all that. Okay. And we need expect. All right. We're getting closer. Then here we need to say test server and test client. Okay. Making more progress. I don't know what this document revisions is. Strange. I'm going to check into that. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, I'm back. When I set up Testacular, I excluded the client tests from the server, from when we were testing our server, but I told it to look at the root rather than off of the local directory. So that explains that. So now we're getting closer. Client test. Now that wasn't excluded. Okay, there we go. Here we go. And then, oh, interesting. The release test failed. Let's run that again. It looks like our application might be down. I'm going to go check into that. Back in a moment. Okay, I'm back. It's working now. I'm not sure what happened. I went to the site manually. It came up just fine. And then I ran the test again and it passed. So I'm guessing there was just some sort of timeout issue. If on Heroku, if you've only got one dyno, it will shut it down if you're not using it. And it takes a little while to spin up, and I assume that's all the problem was. Now we've got this address in use problem, which I assume is just because of things crashing. So, oh no, I just killed the browsers. That was not the right thing to kill. All right, let's bring that back up. Connect those back in. And once again, IE8 and IE9 have come up multiple times, so I'm going to turn them back on. Let's make sure that's all working. There. Okay, so let's run our Jake script. Address in use in our server test. That's surprising. I thought that was working. So, and it's really not related to what we're doing. So I'm going to go check into this also and be back in a moment because I really want to focus on the client side stuff at this point. So back in a moment. Okay, I'm back. This was a tricky one. Testacular uses port 8080 and our server test uses port 8080. So that was, so the port's already in use, so it couldn't start the server on localhost 8080. So that's what I'm going to fix real quick. I'm going to actually go through and factor out the URL. So this is going to be base URL, and let's put that up here. And then we'll just substitute this through. Okay. And now let's also find every use of 8080 and change that to port. So basically I'm not only fixing it, I'm going to clean up the code so it's easier to change in the future. So now let's find all of our uses of 8080 and replace that with port. And now let's change the port to 5020. And that should now work. Okay, cool. So we've got our tests up and running again. Next time what we're going to do is we're going to actually get the client side run Testacular from our Jake script. So that's what we'll do next time. Thanks for watching, everybody. I will catch you next time.